On today's episode of To My Way of Thinking, where we talk with the tree shakers and policymakers and those who would make our world a better place, we have Joyce Morgan Danford. She is currently a city council member, District 10, across the river.
District 1.
District 1. I had 1 in my mind and still 10 came out of my mouth. It's District 1, Arlington District, as it is known. And she's completing her second term on the council. And we're going to talk to her about her experiences, obviously, on the council and a bit about what next. Thank you for joining us today, Joyce.
Oh, absolutely, Fred. And thank you for having me.
All right. Well, let's get right to it. What's the state of our city?
What's the state of our city? I think that's according to who you ask. It really is. And for me as a city council member, I think we're in a good situation in many ways, but certainly when it comes to social issues, we're failing. You know, we absolutely get a failing grade. There are so many opportunities for us to get it right. But with all of the influence from the state and our governor, it really starts trickling back down to us. And we as lawmakers really have to kind of look at that and realize that we have to make the decisions that are right for our people right here in Jacksonville. And that might look a little different from other parts of the state. And so social issues, when we're talking about 55 years of consolidation, and we're still seeing some of the same things in Northwest Jacksonville that we did 50 years ago. We move a couple of steps forward and we still fall back. So it is definitely who you ask, because when you look at some of the stuff that the chamber says, it looks all rosy. It looks absolutely rosy. But when you look at some of the things that our citizens are facing, then you see something totally different. So according to who you ask on what day, Fred.
I think you partially answered this question already, but let's take a little deeper dive into it. What are some of the takeaways that you have gotten from your last 7 3/4 years on the city council of Jacksonville?
Well, thanks for asking that question. I've learned an awful lot. And, being in the news business, I thought I had pretty much seen it all. But you learn so much as a city council member, and the inner workings that we get to see are totally different from what the public gets to see. The public doesn't get to see all of the committee work that we have to go through, all of the different facets that we have to contend with. It's not just finance. It's not just transportation, energy, and utilities. It's not just the neighborhoods. It is everything in this city of Jacksonville. And that's what makes being a city council member so important. And that's why people have to know who you're voting for and why you're voting for them, because they have a tremendous task to do on the citizens' behalf, And so for me, I took that very seriously as a city council member. And all I wanted to do was make Arlington better than when I came into office. And that's what I just proceeded to do, very methodically, step by step, engaging my community every month, a town hall meeting, which is basically unheard of in the city of Jacksonville, especially a town hall meeting where you had more than 50 people show up. So I embarked on that in 2015 of September, and I have never stopped it.
How have you been able to stay awake during the endless hours of public hearings that the city council has? You've got the at the top of the city council meetings, you've got at least an hour and a half or so for public to come up and talk about any issue that's on your mind. Then for the zoning committee, for the zoning issues that are facing the council, you've got another set of public hearings that may take place depending upon how controversial the rezoning or zoning may be. And of course, you got bills that I think you call them second reading that come up, and the public who has interest in a particular bill can come and speak to that. You've had meetings that have run well into 1 o'clock or so in the morning. What's your secret to staying aware and appearing to be as attentive as you can be, especially issues that don't necessarily concern you?
Well, all issues concern me. I will tell you that. And the reason they all concern me is that even though I was elected by the constituents of District 1, I serve this whole city. All of us serve the whole city because it takes 10 votes to move any action. No bill can be passed without 10 votes. And so when a constituent comes up, for me, again, because I hold town hall meetings every month, I am actively seeking what is going on in their lives, because everybody has, everybody has a different take on Jacksonville and what kind of city we are. But these are our constituents. This is our time to listen to them and hopefully help them with some of the issues that they are facing. So I guess it's my time as a news anchor. It's just my time as, really think about it, being a mom and needing to listen to your children. It's all of those things rolled up into one. And so when people are talking, I want to hear them. Sometimes I am actually writing down what they're saying. I'm writing down their name so that if I need to refer back to that, I have that available right there, So that's how I listen. And I listen because, number one, it's important to me. And that's why I'm a city council member, Fred, is because I was supposed to be here to listen, take the concerns of our constituents, and try to help them move forward.
You represent one of the most, I would say, one of the most diverse council districts in the county. African immigrants are there. And from that diaspora, Ethiopian immigrants and Nigerian immigrants. You have first persons who originate from the Caribbean, who have businesses that they've set up in Arlington, long-standing now. I mean, it's one of the few places you can travel around the city and you can go to an African supermarket if you want to check out what's going on. How have you been able to navigate that diversity, along, of course, with the long-standing African-American population and Caucasian population that has been there for quite some time? How have you been able to navigate that, and what's been the feedback that you've gotten from those diverse populations that inhabit Arlington?
I've been able to navigate it, I believe, Fred, because of all the same things that I've told you about. One of the things that I may not talk about a lot is my diverse background. I come from a military family. My father was career Army. So my two brothers and sister and I traveled everywhere my father was stationed. So my father and mother are from Louisiana, but he was stationed in Oklahoma. He was stationed in Alabama. He was stationed overseas in Bad Kreuznach, Germany, and he retired at Fort Benning, Georgia. So I've been around the world, just very diverse. And I believe that when I encounter people, I encounter them exactly where they are. I don't try to make you anything. I don't try to put you in a little box so that I can manage you. I accept you just like you were presented to me. And because I've done that in all facets of Arlington, I literally have had no problem. In fact, I've thrived. And I thrive because I empower everyone who comes in contact with me to thrive as well. In other words, I'm not trying to do this all for Joyce. This is about our community, when I was PTA president, or whether when I was over Relay for Life, or the Diabetes Association. Really doesn't matter what organization that I'm giving my time to. It is the people. It's always been the people. It will always be the people for me, and that's how I move through different communities with no problem. And again, it's usually very, very positive, very,
Mm,
very positive.
mm. Crime is a big issue all over the county. In your district, in 2021, 2022 in particular, at least publicity wise, there was a lot of gun violence going on there. And I perceive possibly some of it gang generated. What do you think has been the biggest generator of crime in Arlington District 1?
Well, I think it's what everybody else has already talked about. I will tell you, I'm no expert on crime, and I leave that bit of it to the crime fighters.
Mhm.
But I will tell you that as I walk my district, either when we do district walks with police or district walks with fire, um, or just when we're just out, what I see sometimes is hopelessness. There are so many people that just don't see hope in the same way that maybe you would see it or I would see it. I never think that there is a time when we can give up on hope. So that's why in Arlington, um, you might see pockets where there is going to be a lot of violence. But violence, I find, is everywhere. I find it in some of the wealthiest neighborhoods, and I find it in some of the poorest neighborhoods. It has to do with people. Again, to me, it goes back to people, where people are in their lives. You can be hopeless and have $1 million. You can be hopeless and have just a few dollars. So a lot comes from within, comes from our family, how our family reacts to things. And so the social services that are provided throughout our community, those social services are really, really needed. I just talked to someone from United Way, and he told me, he said, I don't think we've been doing as much as I would like to do in the Arlington area. And he said, I'm gonna be centering on your area and your district. And I said, come on, the more the merrier. Bring those resources to me, because we need them and our people need them, so that they don't feel hopeless and they don't feel like there's no way out. There is a way out. And I know that way.
One of several elephants in the room for city council persons these days, and again, I don't think you have one in your district that I'm aware of that's as significant as the one in Springfield, but there is the issue of Confederate monuments.
Right.
What are we going to do? What's the council going to do? I've heard the council president say he's going to take some action on it in these over these next few months, but nothing specific. There have been proposals for it. The mayor has taken down the one, obviously, that was in the former Hemming Plaza, now the James Weldon Johnson Plaza. And of course, one of the councilmen, Matt Carlucci, has proposed allocating, I think, about $500,000 to take down another and store it somewhere. He's not crazy about recontextualizing it. What's going to happen? What do you feel should happen on the issue of Confederate monuments here in Duval County?
Well, we're in the minority on that one. So many of us keep voting to take them down, move them. put them somewhere else. But we don't have the traction. We don't have the numbers. Again, I think if you're concerned about issues just like this, then you have to go to the polls. That's the only way you change this.
Are they going to be willing? Are they going to be? Is there any will on the city council then to put it up for a referendum?
Again, I don't think we have the votes.
Really?
We haven't had, Brett, we haven't had the votes on this one from the start. You know, we've tried. The will is not there. And it has to be, to me, the will of the people. The people have to speak. This is truly the issue that they want. And if it's truly the issue that they want these monuments down, then somebody's got to be standing behind the few that keep voting to take them down. Mm-hmm. We keep voting, but we don't have enough votes. So it's going to stay where it is unless the dynamics change on city council. Mm. And we have an opportunity to do that March 21st.
You have got a majority Republican, a Republican majority on the city council.
That is correct.
And, you know, it's rather historic. A lot of folks don't think about it, but I think because it has been on the camera, we've had successive African-American Republican leaders, two African-American who happen to be Republicans serving consecutively mm-hmm. as the city council presidents. Mm-hmm. And you're telling me that we still don't have any kind of sensitivity among those, let's take those two gentlemen in particular on this thing so that we can at least, assuming that we got at least 5 other votes, we don't have any sensitivity to get at least to 10 with that.
We haven't had it, and all you got to do is check the record. The record speaks for itself. You really don't even have to ask me or anybody else. The record speaks for itself. It doesn't matter who the city council president is. The record speaks for itself, and we have not had the votes.
What's the major budget item that you have been looking at in this coming budget that's coming up? I mean, you won't get a chance to vote on it maybe, but
no.
Over the last couple of years, what's been the major budget items that you've been keeping an eye on?
Well, I would say when I first came in, of course, the major budget item had to be the pension and, dealing with the pension and getting some kind of plan to hopefully take us through this pension crisis. It's certainly been alleviated. And now, in the coming years, we should have that taken care of. Quality of life issues, I can't believe I can't remember the septic tanks. Septic tanks have been a major issue over the whole 8 years that I have been here. Quality of life issues, whether it's homelessness, affordable housing, and whether for me, it's parks. Jacksonville has the largest park system in the entire nation with more than 400 and some odd parks. In District 1 alone, I have 25 parks, and most of those parks are rather large, on the large side. I do have pocket parks. I do have some passive parks, but a lot of my parks are active, where there's soccer, where there's football, where there's baseball. So I have a lot going on. So I do spend a lot of time talking about parks, talking about recreation, talking about those quality of life issues for our entire families. So those are the issues that have kind of impacted me most over my 8 years.
What's next for Joyce Morgan Danford?
What is next for me is the property appraiser's office. As you know, with City Council, as I was saying earlier, we serve as liaisons and board members for so many aspects of the city that people really just don't see. So one of the things people might not have ever seen or ever known is that for 3 years, I served on the Value Adjustment Board for the City Council for the city of Jacksonville. And in that role, I dealt for 3 years directly with our property appraiser, with constituents who had issues about their taxes, the amount of taxes that they were paying. And if they decided to contest that, then the Value Adjustment Board was the board that kind of looked at that, made those decisions, went through a magistrate, and it would come back. And so for 3 years, I did that. For 2 of the years, I was actually the chair of the Value Adjustment Board. And that's when I really saw that there were so many parts of our city that we never look at. We do look at the mayor's race. We do look at the sheriff's race. We do look at all of the city council races, but what we don't pay attention to is some of the constitutional offices. And the property appraiser's office is one of those offices that really hasn't been taken. It's kind of been taken for granted almost, is that, you run for that and you get that. And sometimes when you get in the voting booth, you might not know that name who's even on the list for property appraiser. So you just take a guess. Well, in this year, Fred, you won't have to guess. You will know this name. This name is a name that's been around here since 1988. I've done everything in this community. I've learned. I continue to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. In fact, I'm in the Executive Master's Program at Jacksonville University right now under Rick Mullaney. So it's continuous. And that's the kind of person we need in that office. Jerry Holland's done a good job, but he can't run again. So we have 3 people who are running for that spot, and I am one. I am the only female to have ever run for this spot. I am the only African American to ever have even run for this.
What do you do? I mean, yes, you do have name recognition. There's no question in my mind about that. But there is still the issue of overcoming this tendency in Duval County over the last 2 election cycles to vote Republican first, to look for what's behind it. What are you doing to kind of overcome that hurdle? Because the Democrats hold the registered voting majority, but they have not been voting for Democrats in most of the constitutional seats, from the sheriff to the mayor to, as you said, tax collector, supervisor of elections, property appraiser. They haven't been voting that way. What's your plan to kind of overcome that hurdle?
I think it's education. It's what I do best: meeting and greeting with the people, explaining to them. I will tell you, Fred, a lot of people, when I'm out talking, you would be surprised at the number of people who are excited that I chose to do this, but they're like, what do you do? What do you do? And so you have to do this whole educational component of, yes, on city council, I help make the millage rate. When you go to the property appraiser's office, this is the office that assesses the value of all of the commercial and residential parcels. We have 385,000 commercial and residential parcels here in Duval County. So it's a massive job. And then, I have to let them know that once we assess the value and deduct your exemptions and things like that, then that is sent over to the tax collector's office, who you write the check to. And so it has been massive when it comes to the educational component, but I think that that's good, because I think it now puts this particular constitutional office out in the public, whereas before it really wasn't out there. It was just something you went into the booth and you just chose somebody.
Mm.
Now there's more information about it. You know, if you go to my website, you'll see lots of information about the property appraiser's office, you know, other things that are related to that. So I think it's going to elevate just the office in general, just because I'm in the race.
Now, do you have to tackle? Do you have to continue to deal with zoning issues come under the helm of that office?
No, just assessing the property, the value. It's very succinct in
Okay.
what they do.
All right.
It's
So you don't
very
have to sit. You don't have to sit through any of those long hearings with
No,
that.
I'll have some other ones though. I'll have others.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that. I wish you well with that. We've of
Thank you.
course known each other for a few years now, and I'm just happy to see that you served well in city council and in life, and you've done quite well with it. We'll look forward to seeing you prosper in the coming year, and then in the next month or so with that. Joyce, it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to end by just reminding folks again, this is about education and making sure that everybody is well aware of what's going on. And so, again, if you could just direct them to my website, just so they can see what we're talking about, is www.vote4joycemorgan.com, just to see what's going on out there and just educating yourself before you even go to the polls.